Yo Goth Gang, what is up? It's Bishop and welcome to the church. So, as you can see, today's video is a bit different. It is Black Veil Brides Day, if you guys don't know, and I am a massive fan. So, I thought that it would be fun to take inspiration from the Knives and Pens music video, which as of today is 10 years old, which is insane to me. But yeah, so I took inspiration from that and I decided to essentially become Andy in his all-white outfit in that video. I did this for laughs. I was just gonna take some Instagram pictures, post them, talk a bit about Black Veil Brides. But so I did this, it was funny, but then it was so weird. I didn't expect it to be this weird at all. I looked in the mirror once I had done this, it took me about 5 seconds, and I saw 13-year-old me, right? Like it was like stepping in a time machine. It was so weird, and especially with the hair, and it's so odd. So then when I was posting these on Instagram and I was writing the caption, I realised how much I had to say. So over these past 10 years, since Knives and Pens was released, I was just thinking about how much of an impact they have had on me. These 10 years have been, you know, the craziest of my life, obviously. I'm 22. So from 12 to 22 is where you do the vast majority of your growing as a person. Definitely. And they were there throughout all of that. And while I was writing my caption for my Instagram post, I realised that what I thought was just me talking about how much I loved this band was actually me talking about and answering so many of your questions, and like as to how I got to the point I'm at, stylistically, confidence-wise, morally, like all of those things. And it all comes from this. So I thought it would be fun to sit down and just talk to you guys about kind of my story in relation to Black Veil Brides, to celebrate Black Veil Brides Day and 10 years of getting kids to do this. So let's do it, alright? Let's just fucking do it. And if you don't like Black Veil Brides, that's fine. Just leave. I guess we're gonna take it back to the beginning. People always think that I was like a music kid, right? Like that at my core, that's what made me alternative or whatever. Because that's what it is for most people. They, you know, one of their parents liked cool bands and they got into different bands and then they, like, that expanded, they became them, whatever. But I wasn't a music kid. I wasn't into music at all until I was almost like 12. Yeah. Like 11, 12 is when I actually even started listening to music. Before that, I only ever listened to game and movie soundtracks, like things from games and anime and stuff that I loved, because that's who I was, and who I am at my core. I am just a fucking nerd. It's I went through a stage of trying not to accept that, but it is who I am. That's where I came from originally, right? It was like comic books and games and fantasy films and all of that sort of stuff. And then when I started secondary school, which is at age 11 here in the UK, I found a CD in my older sister's room, and it was Alkaline Trio, and the album art was really cool. It's like their eyes are white, their eyes are gouged out, kind of situation. And it was really creepy, and I've always been into like horror games and films and all of those things. So I was automatically drawn to this, and I asked my sister if I could listen to it, and she said that I could have it, so I listened to that, and it was one of the first times that I was like, oh shit, music is its own thing, and it's cool, and it's not, you know, because I kind of had just heard, like, you know, what was on the radio and like what other kids I knew listened to, and that was, you know, not what Beyonce and shit, like it just didn't speak to me in any regard. I was like, I don't get why everyone's so obsessed with music. So weird, I know. And then, so I listened to Alkaline Trio, I really liked them, and I started getting into music a bit. My boyfriend at the time in secondary school really liked Slipknot, so I started getting into stuff like that. And I personally got really, really into Kiss because I was obsessed with Scooby-Doo as a kid. This is such a weird reason, but Scooby-Doo used to do all these mashups with like Scooby-Doo and Batman, Scooby-Doo and Kiss, and I got into Kiss through that, and then I was obsessed, and then I got into stuff like Motley Crue and then Misfits, which were like a massive thing for me. So yeah, I was into all this stuff, but most of it wasn't cool. Most of it was like this old, weird, glam shit that people, even like the alternative kids, didn't, you know, they weren't on board for it, they didn't really get it. I started listening to like punk stuff and blah blah, and I wasn't cool even though I was like into alternative stuff, do you know what I mean? Not even in like that crowd. And I remember specifically I went into school one day and everyone was crowding around, joking around, and a Kerrang magazine had released a issue with like Andy Biersack stickers, well Andy 6 at the time, like fully, you know, like perfect weapon attire, like peak makeup Andy. And they were like love or hate stickers, so there was like a love box that was ticked or a hate box, and everyone had stuck all these hate stickers everywhere. They were even on my school bus. And I did not know who Black Veil Brides were, okay? This was before, like, they got really big. It was like when they were really first coming out. So like 10 years ago. And yeah, so I think I was 12. And yeah, I was 12. And I saw these stickers with Andy on them, not knowing who he was. And I was instantly like, who is this person? What is this? I need to know what this is. And everyone was like, oh, you know, that's Andy 6, they're like a lame band, they're shit, like, oh, don't worry about it, you hate them. And I was like, okay. So obviously I went home and listened to them because of course I would. And the first song I listened to was Perfect Weapon, and I think that I went for Perfect Weapon because of the thumbnail. Most people's first Black Veil Bride song is Knives and Pens, so it's kind of sad that I don't have that for this like reason, but it was Perfect Weapon, and I'm not sad that it was, because that video, that song, it was just, I've never felt such a feeling of like realization when watching something. I put that music video on for the first time, and if you guys know, it's really, really like aesthetic. It starts off and the first thing is like a big scream, it's like and then the guitars kick in, and it just spoke to me on a level that nothing ever had before. Like, I loved games and I loved all the things that I loved, but I hadn't ever looked at something and just instantly felt like this is everything I want to be. This is what I want. Like, aesthetically, to look like Kiss and Misfits and those sorts of bands that I was so drawn to because of the theatrics, but not necessarily lyrically, like Kiss and Motley Crue, that their lyrics are, you know, it's whatever, it's not me, they're fun, but it's fun, it doesn't like hurt me. And then there were bands like Alkaline Trio and stuff, which their lyrics more like, you know, like touched me, but they weren't as like with that aesthetic, or like they didn't, it wasn't quite right, you know. And then to see Black Veil Brides, who are this like, you know, Kiss, Motley Crue looking motherfucking mess, but then to hear lyrics about like everything I was feeling at the time. And I'm not saying like we were all feeling it, right? Like, we were all at that point where, maybe not all of us, but you know what I mean, as a weird kid who not only doesn't fit in with the normal kids, but doesn't fit in with the alternative kids because they seem to just be alternative because they listen to heavy music or whatever, when you're consistently obsessed with like what's going on in the world and how you can't fix it and how everything is scary and hurts, and it's like no one else realizes that, and no one is relatable and nothing makes sense to you. And your brain feels like it works in such a different way than everyone you're around. And then just to find something that makes you feel like maybe you can belong here, that was everything, and that was everything I needed. So that was where my obsession started. I was 12, I listened to Perfect Weapon, and I was hooked. They were my favourite band from then on. Consistently. And everyone hated me for it. It just made it worse. It made all the bullying worse. It made even the boyfriend that I was with, the one that liked Slipknot, he didn't even like them. His friends took the piss. Everyone, you know, and that somehow made it make more sense that no one else got it either. And I was like, this is why. No one else gets them because they don't get me, and we're the same, right? Like, this is 12-year-old Jude, like, it was just crazy. And then I turned 13, Black Veil Brides released, set the world on fire, and I bought tickets to see them live for the first time. It was this tiny venue in Devon, in a university in Exeter, and it was so intimate and so small, and I went all out, obviously, right? Everyone did back then. So people still do for Black Veil Brides gigs, but back then it was they went all out, you went all out, everyone looked like a member of the band. So I fully dressed up as Andy, to the point where I had every single one of his tattoos drawn on my arms. It was too far. It was, but it was so fun. And I had, like, you know, the full outfit. Like, I really did look like him, to be honest. And this is what I said in the Instagram caption. I had never felt more comfortable, confident, or like me than when I dressed up like that. And that's so funny because I was dressed up as someone else. But it was the feeling that came with it. It was the idea. Because Andy Biersack created Andy 6 as almost like a shield, right? Like a character. He wanted to become a superhero and not be, you know, the kid that cries because they're bullied, or the kid that can't relate to anyone and feels so alone and is socially awkward and has all of these personal issues that really affect their life. It's like Batman, and this is why me and Andy relate to Batman so much, right? It's like you take all this negative shit that is scary and it's terrifying and it's the thing that should hold you back, and you become it. And when you become that thing, then you become untouchable, because the power those people have over whatever it is they're taking the piss out of is now what you are. You own that thing. When you take ownership of, you know, like, oh yeah, I'm a freak, then people can't hurt you by saying you're a freak because you just fucking said it yourself and you're owning it and you love that. So the whole idea of Andy 6 was to be the superhero version of Andy Biersack, and that's how he created him. And for me, I guess I used the same shield, right? Like, I became Andy 6 at the very beginning, and that feeling made me feel safe and made me feel like who I wanted to be. So at the end of the gig, which by the way was still to this day one of the best nights of my fucking life, I went back to my aunt's house because it was in Devon and I was staying with her, and I had to take the makeup off. And I so didn't want to do it. I so didn't want to do it to the point where I slept in it. I never sleep in my makeup, but I just didn't want to take it off, ever. I didn't want to go back to being the me that I felt that I was before that. So when I did eventually take it off, I just remember thinking so strongly in my head, I want to look like that every day. I wish I could feel like this every day. And then I realised that there was nothing stopping me. So I became Andy 6 every day. I did that makeup every day. Not all the tattoos, but all the body paint. all the body paint, the hair, the makeup, the outfits, that became my aesthetic. That just was how I dressed for a while. But see, this is the thing, you guys always ask where my makeup comes from, and I feel lots of people think it's like different influences from Instagram and stuff, but it's never been anything to do with that. I've never been interested in makeup from a makeup standpoint. That's not where it came from for me at all. It was part of becoming this superhero that I wanted to be. So yeah, it started out as me just dressing up as Andy Six to, you know, try and do the same thing he was doing and become someone that was untouchable. But then it became so much more than that, because I did feel more like me, and I felt like this was a thing that understood me and that I understood, and that I don't know, I could make sense of things for once. It was such an outlet for me. And then, you know, I started introducing other things to it, and, you know, other things that I enjoy into my style, and kind of changing things up a bit, and things from maybe other bands or like the movies and the games that I love. I let them influence the makeup too, and it was like I wanted to make my own Andy Six, right? I didn't want to just dress up as him. I wanted to do what he was doing, and I did. I started changing it gradually, and it became its own thing. And then, I mean, I guess what started as Andy Six eventually became Bishop, right? Like, I don't think about that anymore when I put my makeup on, which is why I think doing this today was so weird, because I mean, this isn't the makeup that I wore when I looked like Andy Six every day. I wore full, you know, like the makeup from Perfect Weapon. But I think that, yes, it was a superficial thing, you know, it was an appearance thing, but the way it made me feel and the way it changed how I thought was what was important, because Andy Biersack and that gig taught me that you can create who you want to be. You can sit there and design them like a fucking comic book hero and decide all the things that you think are important in a person and that you want to be and you want to have, those qualities, and then you can create that. And yes, for a while maybe it's a costume, and maybe fake it till you make it, right? Maybe you are just trying to become that thing, but I don't know if it's just me personally, but I just did. I just naturally became that thing. Because I worked so hard to do the things that I thought were important and that made you a good person. And I consistently do that. It's so important. It's a journey. It never ends. You need to consistently be creating your ideal version of you and changing into that. And I think that as much as you can see it more from a perspective, like an appearance perspective, it's so much more than that. It really is like a learning situation. I guess my point is, the difference between when it was a costume and me now, and me, you know, slightly after that anyway, is self-love. Because I went from being a very angry person who, luckily for me, I didn't exactly hate myself because other people didn't like me. I just hated that I didn't work in the world, you know? I hated that I couldn't fit in and I couldn't understand where they were coming from and I couldn't have fun in the same way, because to me, everyone was laughing and having a good time and I was like, but there's all this awful shit going on that none of you seem to care about, and that's boring, you know? I'm a boring person. I am an annoying person to be around because everyone wants to have a laugh and have fun, and obviously I can do that, but there's a part of me that gets angry when people just seem to be so carefree. I don't know. But I struggled with that a lot when I was younger, and I think that I went from being so angry at the fact that I couldn't fit into the world, but then Black Veil Brides made me realise that it's okay to be angry, but it shouldn't be aimed at myself, or, you know, like it's such a trope, but it's okay to be different, right? And it is, because it's not your fault if those people don't understand. If they're the kind of people that are going to bully you for looking different, then they, you know, there is an element of, well, fuck you, I'm better than that. I wouldn't do that to another person. So you do almost have to have, there is a slight arrogance about it that you need to make you feel untouchable at the beginning. And then the more you look at it from that perspective, the more you can understand why you aren't awful, and the more that you're changing yourself to become a better person, the more that you genuinely start to love yourself, and then you can actually be confident, and then it's no longer a costume, it's just you. And obviously I'm not saying I'm untouchable, I have bad days, of course I do, like people can still upset me, but it's not, I never feel how I felt back then. I couldn't, because I don't feel the same way about myself, and I'm not that person. So, like I always say on Instagram and stuff, the key to being happy is it's confidence and self-love, and the way you get there is to make yourself someone you can be proud of. If you don't have someone you can look up to and someone who, you know, is your role model or will look after you, then become that. Become that thing for yourself. I guess that's all I have to say, guys. And if you think that this is so lame that I've uploaded this, and so lame that I've done this, and it's so lame, but I like Black Veil Brides and you don't, and it's so not goth, and I know, and if you're here just for that, then I don't know if you've listened to anything I've said, but I never wanted to be the cool kid. That wasn't my issue. That wasn't my aim. It doesn't bother me. I 100% think that it's way fucking cooler to be genuine in the things that you love and that matter to you and that affected you in your life. And for me, that's Black Veil Brides. They were my favourite band when I was 13, and they're my favourite band now I'm 22. Happy Black Veil Brides Day, guys. And remember, you have been blessed.